Yeah, of course. Well, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing really well. It's less than 2 weeks until the margin between us is hitting bookstores and Amazon. And so I'm in crunch time. I love so much the person that is formatting my book, TM Baylor, because super not pressuring me, but at the same time, like, hey girl, you done with revisions yet so I can format your book? And in my mind, I'm just like, I would be so much harsher, and she's being so gentle. And I was like up all night, like revising. I really procrastinated, but I revised. I got it done. I feel super confident about it. And in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, it'll be out.
That's absolutely amazing. A sapphic magical realism rom-com. Some tropes of your upcoming book is slow burn. We've got witty banter.
Mhm.
We've got AAPI female main characters, magical realism. And I really love this coming out March 31st of this year. It literally is the end of this month. Time flies. What was the inspiration for the margins between us? What's pulling you back to romance?
Yeah, well, I think I want to be, I think romance is my jam. I think that's like my lane because I try to approach it from, I don't know, like a different, like everything that makes up my identity and everything that I have wanted to experience in books is like any gap that I'm trying to fill.
Mm.
Not saying that like what I'm doing maybe hasn't been done before, but it hasn't been done with my voice and with my like perspective. And so I feel super comfy in romance because when I'm writing nonfiction, it's always like liberatory, political like essays or personal narratives, and romance gets to be like my escape. I do have one other genre in the back of my head, but that is like a long time in the future that I would play around with. But for now, romance, I would like to like only write magical realism, but I'm finding myself for future books being drawn to just other types of contemporary romance. But yeah, something about it. It's just like so sweet and wistful and hopeful. And I'm like, it's really hard nowadays. And if I can bring a smile to someone's face and have them feel like, wow, love might be possible even in 2026, I'm like, I'm doing my job.
I absolutely love that. I think love is definitely possible. And I love that in this story, you're focusing on Asian representation as well as queerness and found family. Those
Yeah.
are some elements in the romance genre we need to see more of. I wanted to know a little bit about what inspired the characters of this novel for you and what gives you butterflies in the romance genre.
Ooh, very good questions.
Yeah.
First I'll start with what gives me butterflies. What gives me butterflies is the slow burn. I
Mm.
want to not I don't always do this I actually didn't do this in the margin between us, which is like wait 13 chapters for a kiss. But when I'm the reader, I want to wait 13 chapters for a kiss. I want chapters upon chapters of like light hand brushing and like the yearning, like give it to me all, like I want that. But as a reader, I try to pace like what would like a natural person do, like if you liked someone, like what are some natural um progressions in like an intimate relationship. I don't write, at least for this book, I haven't written like super heavy spice. For my holiday romances that came out, it was like two back-to-back novellas. Those didn't have any spice. This one does. And so yeah, I tried to write the spice in the way that I look for it. And I'm not like super heavy spice, so it's pretty sweet, I think. And I feel like the spice that I wrote is true to what the characters would do. So that's what I try to make it like. This makes sense for the characters and where they are in their like journey and relationship. But as for what inspired the characters, Eliza is definitely inspired by me as my self insert, because like her whole arc, without giving it away, I won't say her whole arc actually, but I will say like the start, like where she's starting from is that she's a novelist and she has like writer's block, and she moved to get away from an ex, and I am guilty of moving to get away from an ex, and she needs to like plug into the world again. Like She is, I would say, depressed. But I don't linger too much on that. It's more of like, you can tell she's depressed by like kind of how out of touch she is with the world. She doesn't really find it necessary to like have strong friendships or relationships, and she's kind of just over it. I don't think that's where I am anymore, but I know that's where I was in my 20s. And so that was like my self insert. And then Olive is like very opposite Eliza in the sense that she's like snarky and she's like unafraid and she's just like, all of it's kind of like the amalgamation of like my ex-girlfriends. So like all the best parts of my ex-girlfriends I kind of like put into Olive, which is like, this is an ex-girlfriend that brought me out of my shell. This is an ex-girlfriend that like, you know, seemed to always talk in like poetic prose. Like I kind of, yeah, I don't know. It's just, it's my experiences.
I feel like the best romance novels I've ever read have a root in something that is something we all universally want, which is like
Yeah.
to be understood. Maybe you have a hobby, you wish someone would just listen to that hobby and like genuinely be invested. And for some people, that is
Yeah.
romance, like attention, that genuine attention.
Yeah.
And I think you just write tenderness really beautifully, but I also think you write communication when the dialogue in your books feels very natural. And I feel
Oh,
something I could easily see someone talking about in real time. And I
yeah.
absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Um, without giving too much away to listeners, how would you describe the margins between us for folks who are like, "Oh, I want that on my TBR right away"?
Okay. Well, I can give like the back cover blur. Would that
For
be
sure.
okay? So let me like pull my screen because I have it up.
For sure.
Okay. So the back cover blurb says, when novelist Eliza McMillan escapes to a fog-soaked town on the Pacific Northwest coast, all she wants is quiet, an attic room, a chipped mug, and the space to begin again. But North Point has other plans, and North Point is where she lives. A line of ink appears in her notebook in handwriting that isn't hers. A voice begins to answer back, and the woman behind that voice isn't supposed to exist. She's fictional, created, imagined, and yet Eliza is falling in love with her. What follows is a story of letters, longing, and the thin places between worlds, where fiction hums with life and love dares to write its own ending. The Margins Between Us is a sapphic love story wrapped in fog, memory, and the small magics that bloom when we start to listen.
Oh my gosh. This sounds absolutely amazing. I always look at your Instagram and your social media because your visuals eat and they're always so cozy and beautiful. I
I'm
saw
a
a
camera
blurb.
girly.
You're really good. You're amazing. But there was a little like snippet you put on your Instagram, and it said Sam slid her latte. The foam art had arranged itself into a heart. Cute, Eliza had said. I didn't do that. The machine got romantic. Happens sometimes. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, that's a good teaser. That's a very good teaser. And as a
Thank
former
you.
barista myself, I love anything that has like even a single scene in a coffee shop. I'm like cozy, perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Um, magical realism and romance. Can you tell me a little bit about why you wanted to combine those two in this upcoming novel?
Yeah. Well, I feel like when it comes to magic and romance, there's like romanticy, like there's romance, there's romanticy, but like what is the bridge between the two? And so that's how I view magical realism romance. And I've read like Ashley Poston does magical realism romance, BK Borison does, um,
Mm.
Rainbow Rowell does it really well. She's probably my favorite when it comes to magical realism. Um, and so I like it because I am like I have so much respect for romantic authors because you are building a whole world, babe. Like that, like you got languages and maps. Like I can't do that for I don't have that skill set. And so for me, magical realism feels a little bit more accessible for me to tap into the magic, and I'm in my own life, I'm very witchy and I'm very like, I don't believe in like, I don't know, I guess I'm superstitious, but I don't believe in
Mm.
like random occurrences. And I feel like romance already feels a little magic. Like those feelings that you get, like, I don't know. It feels like magic. And so magical realism for folks that aren't like super familiar is kind of the way I've experienced it is you're like dropped into a normal world like everything's normal. But there's certain things about it that are like questionable and magical, and there's never really any explanation for it. At least in the books I've read, it's like, oh, this is a time travel magical realism romance, or a time slip, like 7 Year Slip by Ashley Poston.
Loved it.
Yeah, oh my gosh, me too. And it's just kind of like, this is the story, you know? And I kind of wanted to write something where people could like have a brief moment to suspend their disbelief and just
Mm.
experience it and not have to question it too deeply, and have there not be like some like rule system to the magic, but like this is just what it is. And in the margins between us, like the townspeople, as the story progresses, they, to me, represent the reader processing the plot,
Mm.
if that makes sense.
I like that. I feel like the way that you write romance, from my experience in reading it, is like if the espresso and a coffee is the base, it's what pulls you in. All of these characters and everything you add to it is like the syrup, the foam, the steam, the heat, the yearning.
Yeah.
And then by the time the book's over, you're like, I have this amazing coffee and it's gone. I want to reread it again. Like, but the story stays with you, like the warmth of a coffee. That's how reading your books feels.
Oh,
And
thank
it's just
you.
so it's so cozy. That's the best word I could describe is cozy. And I
Yeah.
loved your Christmas romances, and I'm so happy that you came on my podcast to share those, because now going into the new year, The Margins Between Us feels like a really charming entryway to that. I cannot wait to read it. I
Yeah.
also wanted to, I'm just so excited. I also wanted to ask a personal question for you in relation to books. So, what is your favorite thing about a love interest in a romance novel? And how do you try to add something unique to those romance interests in your own novels?
Ooh, my favorite thing. Okay, two things, but one is like really funny. I saw someone post on like Bookstagram, and she was like, "Can we stop having love interests with green eyes?"
Oh,
And I died. She was like, "Green eyes aren't even that common, and like every love interest has green eyes." And I was like, "Not me, with like the multiple love interests with green eyes." So I'm like going back and like changing the eye color for like works in progress. But I like Olive has green eyes. So I thought that was so funny. But I love a green eyed romance lead. I really, something about it. I love that. Either green eyes or like brown eyes that are described with like real depth, you know, because then I feel
mm,
like seen as a brown eyed Black woman. And I want to hear brown eyes described in like really decadent, like, like just glowy ways. So yeah, that's kind of like just at a superficial level what I look for. But when I look for more deeply between the characters, and what I try to like imbue in my writing is like, I want the characters to be friends. Like, friendship is such an important relationship to me. And I feel like just in like building community and like, you know, I don't want to be like, as a romance writer, like lovers come and go, but like, you know, they kind of do. And it's like friendships that'll really hold you down. And in a romance, that quick like butterfly feeling that will fade, and the friendship is what makes it last. And
mm.
so in my romances, it's like, if these people could not exist as friends on their own, then I'm not going to put them together. And maybe part of their journey is like instant attraction and then friendship, but friendship needs to be the baseline for all of my romances.
Ooh, I adore that. I think that some of the best things that come out of love come out of really strong communication skills.
Yeah.
And the older I get, the more I'm like, oh, I need a romance where someone is talking about their feelings. I can't
Yeah.
stand miscommunication. Like, which brings me to my next question for you. I want the tea. Don't hold back. What is a romance trope you do not like and you do not see
Oh
yourself
my
writing?
gosh. Um, a romance trope I don't see myself writing. I don't know if it's like, well, okay, let me flip this. Can I say like, is it tropes, or can I say like categories? Because
Either.
I'm more okay with tropes.
Either. I want to know
Okay.
something that you're like, I'm not writing that. I don't like that.
Okay.
I'm not writing
Yeah,
that.
I will never write and I will never read like mafia romance. And
Okay.
that is no tea, no shade to the writers, because there's obviously a market for that. But that like, any, I won't write romance that would like scare me in real life. So like
Mm.
kidnapping romance, mafia romance. I don't read romantasy because I feel like I get overwhelmed with the level of detail, but that detail is required to like
Mm.
make the story work. So full respect to that too. But yeah, mafia, kidnapping, romance, romantasy, and ooh, one that I will never write is I will never write Grump and Sunshine where the man is the grump. I'm like, oh, so you're getting rewarded with a romance for being an asshole.
Ooh, that's an interesting perspective. That's an
Sorry. I'm just
interesting
like, that's how I
perspective.
feel.
No need to apologize. I do a series on the podcast called Bookish Confessions, and people send me DMs and I ask about things that they personally feel, and then I share their opinions anonymously.
Okay.
So a lot of people have shared tropes they love, they will root for forever. And some
Yeah.
tropes where they're like, I'm not reading that. No offense. I have enough of that in real life. I don't necessarily need it in my books. A
That's
lot of
what
people
I'm saying.
are very outspoken about like the pregnancy trope. A lot of people do not like the pregnancy trope,
Oh
which
no, I
I
can't do
understand. I understand that. I'm not a huge fan of like bully romances. I'm a praise girl. I really need positive reinforcement. I don't, the concept
Yeah.
of someone being like picking at me and like, and we're dating.
No, no,
I'm,
no,
I,
no.
I can't, and I don't want to read about it in my books. So I'm like, I usually care a lot about my main characters. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, I don't, I'm not sure if I want a mean, like a genuinely mean, like love interest. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there is something about a love interest who's like tough exterior. There's reasons why they are the way they are. And then
Yeah.
there's a sweetness and softness. It takes time. I like that. Also,
Yeah.
grown characters. I've hit that age where I can't read like main characters who are like, I just turned 17. It's cold outside and my parents don't understand me. I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, Bella, back the hell up.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do this with you, girl. Like, and she's like, I only knew three things. I knew that Edward was always gone, super gray, and hates me and thinks I smell like shit. I also know that I live in a small ass town and my dad's trying to solve crimes and shit. And I know that I love this man, even though he gives me
Yeah.
absolutely nothing. And I'm sitting here and I'm like,
Biggest purpose when I was younger, I was like, give me this like sullen Pacific Northwest boy, like that's supernatural. But now
oh,
I'm like, yeah, that's look, that's a whole nother thing. But yes, absolutely. I would not do it now.
thank you. I appreciate you. My
Yeah.
girlfriend loves Edward. So when she does hear this episode, I'm sorry, babe. I can't stand that man. He gave her literally stress, just stress.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here and I'm like, no,
Yeah.
no. I bring someone. People say like, oh, be their peace. It's your responsibility to be your own peace. But for someone to bring you comfort and like stressful things happen and they like ground you and they're kind to you, I feel that's
Mhm.
the bare minimum. I feel like that's the bare damn minimum. Be respectful and kind.
Yeah.
And we need that in romance. We need to bring like chivalry and queer romance and just straight romance, just romance in general. We need opening doors, hugs, showing up. I love golden retriever energy. I love
Yeah.
that down. I love it. I love
Yeah.
it.
And
I
see,
see
like,
myself in it. I
also
love it.
my like hope is that by making romance that isn't bully romance and that isn't like mean, scary, ooh, like the romance where it's like somebody broke into your house and like I'm like I can't. I just that would terrify me. Like there's
Reasonable.
no way. Yeah, there's no way I could possibly like get into that enough without being scared. But it's like
Mm.
I want like low key. I want people to read my romance and be like, wow, I deserve more, and I now expect more. Like I kind of want that. Like I want people to be like, this could be like it's yes, it's magical realism, but it's also like these are two women that like communicate with each other, they argue, like they're like real, you know, and they're based off of real relationships I've had with women. And so yeah, I want as much as possible, like I think I said in a previous podcast with you, it's like sometimes romance is the first time somebody experiences that, like if they haven't dated or like maybe they come from like a conservative background where they're not allowed
Mm.
to date or things like that, like maybe picking up my romance, or if you're like closeted too and you're like what's this sapphic romance, like I want you to read this and be like wow, this is something I could expect, or this is something I could nurture in a potential partner, this is something I now know I want. Like
Mm.
that's my goal.
I feel like you definitely get there. I think that I would not be the partner or the friend I am today if I didn't read certain books and I was able to understand, like, I see this in this character and I want to be able to have these characteristics in my own life. Like
Yeah.
saying, like, I wish I was bolder. I wish I was like this character. I wish I was this patient, like this character. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
in real life, you may not have those examples per se, or it may be extremes. And sometimes reading these books, you find parts of yourself that you couldn't find maybe in your current situation, or it
Yeah.
makes you think about things. Like you said, like the reason I asked about tropes that you don't like is because a lot of us find out things we don't like because we read about them, and it's like, this isn't
Right.
really hitting the spot. I love dark romance, but I also learned that in a lot of these dark romance books, the author tells you right away, like, put your mental health first. This does have these tropes, and if you're not comfortable, that's fine. Come back later, or if it's not your cup of tea, no stress. Same thing in the horror genre. They tell you right away, like, hey, you don't need to
Yeah.
do this. But when you're mentally in a good place and you can take that in, and there's a separation, I think it's a beautiful experience when a book makes you look into yourself deeper, or what
Yeah.
would you do in that situation. And I feel like magical realism and what you're doing, there's something about that same magical feeling I got while like watching, Bridge to Terabithia for the first time, or
Oh,
like such a
wow.
beautiful, just that world. Like there's something you think about certain movies or books when you're
Yeah.
growing up, and you're like, I just want to have that fuzzy feeling again. Like Miss Honey from Matilda, even though she did not have magical powers, her
Yeah.
kindness, her kindness and her little
I
cottage.
know.
I'm sitting here and I'm like, I just want to read books that make me feel like that warmth sometimes. And your books, a lot of it just gives that same energy,
Yeah.
that coziness of like Miss Honey's cottage, that romantic, just beautiful, magical elements of Bridge to Terabithia. It gives that
Told
warmth
me it's
and
my
that comfort.
favorite movie.
So
Yeah,
cozy.
you
So
told me it's my
cozy.
favorite movie of all time. This is like such high praise. Oh my goodness.
100%.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to read The Margins Between Us, and I loved your Christmas books, and now I'm sitting here and I'm like, I need this in my life. As we close out the
Yeah.
episode, I really want to touch back on found family, queerness, and the slow burn and intimacy in this book. The letters element. I love writing letters as much as the next girly pop. What was that like
Mhm.
for you, writing those letters for that character? Found family and queerness, tying this all together. What does this book mean to you as you're giving it out?
Yeah. Well, I will say first that like it's very interesting to write letters because it's all me. So it's like me like tapping into these different personalities back and forth. So letter writing is really interesting being like the like one author that's like doing it. But I think what this book means to me is like I've been so blessed to have that found family in my life, and as like a lesbian person, and I identify as queer as well, like politically, but like it's just so like those are the relationships that sustain us. Like you can't choose your birth family, but you can choose your friends. And so I wanted it to be like in the book you'll see like the baristas like Sam and Kai, and then like Eliza's friend Julia that like is obviously like I'll be more like not like in a romantic way, but like we can be deeper friends, but I'm respecting where you're at right now. Like I want it to be like these people are in her orbit and they're not forcing her. They're letting her show up the way that she shows up until she's ready to kind of like join society and prioritize herself. And so, yes, it's a romance, and I think it's a really pretty romance. And I will say, because I'm a poet first, I can be a little poetic prosy. But it's like I want my romance heroines to have their own arc that like it's cool that they have this romance, and maybe that could have been like the impetus of them going on this like self-reflective journey. But that is the story for me. The romance is amazing and it's fun and it's whatever, but it's kind of secondary to the growth of my like main character.
Oh, I absolutely love that when romance is there, but there's also so many other things going on in the story that it's like the romance is not the entire story. There's a lot more to it. And
Yeah.
that's so beautiful. As we close out this episode, where can they find The Margins Between Us, and can they follow you on social media?
Yes. So to find the margins between us, I did a pre-order exclusive with a small independent queer-owned bookstore. And so that's why you can't find it on Amazon. It will be on Amazon starting March 31st of 2026. But for now, if you go to my Instagram, it's at Maya-Gawonii, Maya-Gawonii writes. So Maya-Gawonii writes. In my link tree is a link to A Seat at the Table, which is the bookstore I'm pre-ordering with. And if you pre-order with them, you all pre-orders are signs, and you get a cute little bookmark of Eliza and Olive. And it looks, the bookmark is so cute. It looks like a photo strip, like from a photo booth.
Oh my God.
Or you can also just Google A Seat at the Table bookstore, and like once you're on their website, search it, and they ship everywhere.
Wow. That's absolutely amazing. And the pre-orders are like $15, which is awesome. So that's a
Yeah,
great price for books are so expensive right now. So that's actually a wonderful price, listeners. Ayo, go for it. It's such a
yeah.
cute story.
And
And
I
I will
will
have your socials linked below as well. So everyone can find
thank
you.
you. And
100%.
two things I wanted to ask, or one thing I wanted to share is, you will only ever be able to get the hardcover though through A Seat at the Table. So Amazon's
Mm,
only going to have the paperback because they support me. We're both queer. I want to support them, so hardcovers will always only be available through them.
okay.
Um, and then last thing is, before we close the episode, could I read like a little teaser?
Yes, 110% for sure.
Okay, so this teaser is Eliza writing to Olive. And she says, I haven't given you anything you didn't ask for, Eliza wrote. Then stared at what she'd written because, of course, that wasn't true. She had given her attention like an altar. She had given her skepticism like kindling. She had given her want, carefully at first, and then like a flood that doesn't apologize.
That is so beautiful. Maya, that was gorgeous. Thank you for coming on my podcast and sharing the spirit and the love of this book, The Margins Between Us, coming out March 31st of 2026. I will have
Yes.
the link to that amazing indie bookshop in the show notes below, as well as on your link tree. And that will be linked to everything. Everyone, please follow this wonderful author for more news. I know you're working and writing and making things happen. Please
Yeah.
like and subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify, and grab a copy of this book as soon as it comes out, everybody. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Have a great day. Bye.